And fellas, I gotta say, look, I've been away since Friday. I've been away all weekend. I know you guys are on a little retreat together, but all I will say about this fall tour and this upcoming episode for Monday is I feel confident knowing that we will do our best work and we will continue to thrive just so long as that we can live under the leadership and guidance of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. As long as he is still around to guide us with his honorable wisdom and leadership, I feel that this tour will be a success, and I feel this Monday's episode will continue to be great. So, what do you say?
Yeah.
Guys? Let's start the show.
Yeah, well, no, yeah. Just so you guys know, we are recording this. We're actually recording this on July 1st. If you're hearing this, because we're taking a sailboat to Japan to get a personal blessing from former PM Shinzo Abe, our mentor, the guy who guided us in media, so he can bless this tour, and it can be just as successful as our Southern tour. And
guys,
I
got some bad news.
What?
Shinzo Abe has been compromised to a permanent end.
Wait, what?
By a science fair volcano.
What?
Yeah.
What?
So some dude went to a gas station parking lot and he bought one of those fireworks packages called Grounds for Divorce or Eternal Purple Lotus Bloom, and he just aimed it at Shinzo Abe and blew his ass apart. It actually happened.
Shinzo Abe was killed by a Diet 7-Up can that someone smoked weed out of.
They dropped a Mento into a 2-liter bottle of Diet Pepsi, and it hit him in the back.
That is such a. If you're like a guy who wants the Japanese Empire back, that's such a bad way to die.
Yeah,
getting killed by like a shaken up tab bottle.
An unbelievable own of someone who indeed was trying to resurrect like one of the imperial dreams of the 20th century. Just murked by this dude.
You got killed by a prop gun used for a community theater production of The Outsiders.
You got killed by one of the things they claimed they pulled off the streets by was pulled off the streets by the Toronto Police Department.
Oh man.
But I respect it more than anything though. Like he made that shit. It's like the ingenuity that went into that is genuinely amazing. And it worked.
It's so Japanese. The fact that he made it, the fact that when they asked him about it, it's not like, oh, I'm the second coming of Christ and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't do it. And I was brainwashed. It's like, no, I didn't like the job he was doing. And I didn't like one of his associations. And the most Japanese, can you picture a Japanese guy running after killing somebody? No.
Yeah.
Can you picture a Japanese guy like jumping over fences and like hiding under an empty kiddie pool and shit? No, it's embarrassing. They're just like, okay, I'm done. Come and get me.
Yeah. Apparently, the story now is that the guy's mom had been a member of the Unification Church, which is a South Korean far right cult, the Moonies, and one of the like key cultural arms of like Asian gladio in the post-war world. And this guy's mom and Abe is associated with it because they have the same political goals. And he's endorsed it. Donald Trump has endorsed it. They both sent videos to Moonie conferences in South Korea. And this guy's mom gave all her money to the Moonies, and he got pissed. So he whipped up this fucking in the line of fire ass gun and just stepped to him. And, I got to say, people are talking about, like, what's the deep state angle here? And I'm like, this kind of feels to me like when that Q guy killed the fucking Gambino boss.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like some guys are out there and they're wired to be like, have the weird ambient paranoid violence that's like permeating everything, but also have their shit together enough to make a fucking gun that could kill somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's when just a guy who wasn't brainwashed and wasn't MK Ultra and none of that does that. It's kind of like, when a guy with no formal music training hears a song and can play it on piano. You just got to give it up for the prodigies.
I got to give it. I mean, like you said, he said, I didn't have any like particular political disagreement with Shinzo Abe, but he did say the most Japanese reason for killing a former head of state is I was very dissatisfied with him.
Do you think that means something different over it? Do you think that's like how in Canada, if you call somebody a goof, it's like threatening to rape their family to death? Because it's like, we don't really know.
Yeah, you can't call a Canadian a goof.
Yeah, someone told me that, like, calling someone a goof in Canada is like, they'll like extinguish your bloodline.
Yeah, it's like the most provocative curse. That's cool to know that you can go out there and just drop a hammer on them if we ever do go to Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, like, look, we've we've discussed real assassination attempts, and obviously all the mass shootings that happen in this country. That people are carrying out with high capacity assault rifles that you can pretty much just purchase at roadside, sort of like like how they used to sell jewelry on the side of roads. Pretty much in America, you can just buy an assault rifle there, and it seems mostly they're just shooting up parades and schools and shit like that. Whereas in Japan, like, to get a gun is like harder than getting a mortgage, but yet they've got certain geniuses out there that are getting it done, dropping former right-wing political leaders who are like literally trying to restart Unit 731.
Yeah.
And
you know what?
They're getting
like, this really is a rebuke to the people who like fetishize American firearms. It's like, the font of freedom. And also bemoan how we have all these mass shootings, but nobody ever shoots politicians. It's because guns are so easy to get. So, like, your ambient asshole can just decide to end it all in a blaze of glory in their mind. You don't have that option in Japan. So those goofs, yeah, that's right, I said it, don't do anything. They stay in their mom's basement. They spiral into hikikomori-dom. But so only the really committed can do it. And if you're really committed, you're not going to shoot someone randomly. You're going to pick a target. And that means you're going to pick somebody who is consequential, a consequence that is like equal to the act of having to build that gun and use it. So it's got to be a political figure. If you want presidential assassinations again, you need gun control.
No one in America wants it bad enough. It's like the baseball analogy.
Exactly.
Would you rather have the guy who runs like, he runs like the 40-meter or 40-yard dash like half a second slower than the other guy, but the guy who's faster has good form. The guy who's half a second slower has terrible form. You want the guy with terrible form because the sheer talent is there.
Yeah,
you just have to train him because he wants it more. Japan's the same way. No one in America wants it bad enough because you can get a gun in a vending machine. You can make a ghost gun by going into an abandoned Radio Shack. A cop will just give you one if you ask. You can take them out of that. You can just take one from a cop. They won't complain. They can just get another. And when you snap,
you when just take it out of their holster, they're like,
"That's
don't
why
worry
it's
about
there.
It. I'm on the way back to your station. I'll pick one up there. Don't worry about it."
Yeah. It's not like they don't have enough, but like, that engenders an environment where winning is not prioritized. People don't want it bad enough. And then when it does become game time, like maybe it is finally the day. It's the day where it's happened. Maybe your neighbor's dog is finally telling you to kill people. Maybe your wife left you. Maybe, whatever. What do? You take your high-powered rifle and you kill 3 Orange Julius employees, the last ones in the state of Ohio. What do you do in Japan when it's game time? You build a gun out of like duct tape and a fleshlight, and you kill your equivalent of George W. Bush. Awesome. I have to say, like, killing a former like PM or president, hilarious. The only thing I think would be funnier is if someone killed like Francois Hollande. Like now.
Yeah, fuck you, Hollande.
That would be so funny.
Oh man, I could understand if you were like if you were a socialist and you were mad that he killed your political party. Like if you were like, hey, I thought we were going to do something with this whole socialist party thing, and it's like, yeah, no, he just annihilated it.
Yeah,
time for him to die.
Also, though, like U.S. mass shooters or whatever, like they always find like some huge stockpile of weapons that, like you said, they bought out of a vending machine. Did you see this guy? This guy had another shotty ready to go that had like 18 barrels. It was like some shit out of like the Fallout game. It was like a level 1 weapon that you craft in a video game, and it was shot a fucking spray of ball bearings with like a 30-yard radius. Dude, the guy is
he wanted it.
He wanted it, and I gotta say, look, I mean, like, sending out condolences to Shinzo Abe and his family, but the guy I'm really feeling bad for today is, of course, our own former president, Donald Trump. I mean, him and Abe had some great times together. I mean, like, I think honestly, Abe was the world leader that that Trump most liked. And that
they seemed to vibe, yeah.
They had a real
Even
vibe.
Though apparently Mrs. Abe hated the Trumps like poison and would not be near them. They probably didn't notice at all. But Shinzo vibed with Donald hardcore.
Well, yeah. Oh. Shinzo's wife was like, "Oh, I will not be around you and Trump," and he was just like, "Oh no, won't have the old ball and chain around."
Broad hanging around, bringing the mood down.
Yo, boys night out. We're feeding koi fish.
Okay,
the koi fish video is the one I'm thinking about.
Okay, I want to defend Trump in this one. People think Trump just dumped all the fish food into the pond unprompted. No, Abe did that first.
Abe did
Trump was
first.
like, okay. Yeah.
Abe did it first. People forget that. That's deceptive editing. That's actually an example of the fake news kind of stitching up Trump by manipulating things. He did not dump in the fish food first.
Kind of makes you think that January 6th maybe wasn't that bad.
I mean, it makes you wonder about some of those ballots. How many mules are we talking about? 2,000 maybe?
It makes you wonder if the data packets actually did go to China.
Mm-hmm.
2,000 koi fish.
And a Frankfurt server farm? That's my favorite single thing. That is when I first saw that promulgated, I just sat back and would imagine it in my mind. This idea these people have of white hat, deep state, Trump special operators having a shootout with CIA mercs in a server farm in Germany.
Yeah, they said that Gina Haspel died in a shootout. That was awesome. It's so awesome
John,
that they
you.
That was the plot of the last 3 Splinter Cell games.
You people have been lobotomized by movies. You cannot imagine the world as it is. You have to live in a fucking Steven Seagal movie.
Yeah. I know. I love that.
No, both Trump and Abe were both trying to kill those koi fish because there were data packets in those koi fish. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
there were data packets. So you have to overfeed them. Everyone knows that. If you give fish too much food, they die. But unfortunately, they didn't kill enough of them. They didn't kill enough of them to save either Trump's presidency or Shinzo's life. So, R.I.P. Bozo.
R.I.P. Back watch.
I mean, okay. And
you can't make fun of it. It's bad to make fun of it. It's you're losing your humanity when you make fun of it because we are all mortal. Blah blah blah.
Sure. I love it when people do that. I love it when people do that. Like, a man just died. Think of his family, shit. And then you scroll down 3 tweets, and it's like, what? Why Hitler was nicer than people thought.
Okay, so
why Reinhard Heydrich was a cool boss.
Well, okay, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because
Reinhard Heydrich, the man knew how to delegate.
Reinhard Heydrich was giving oomph. Reinhard Heydrich was giving the girl you don't notice in 10th grade, and she goes to fat camp, and then she's giving oomph vibes. That's what their tweets say, not me. I didn't say that.
Okay, well,
Reinhard Heydrich is low-key oomphy.
If we're talking about, at least as it relates to Shinzo Abe, and please, a man just died, think of his family and his oomfies. Shinzo Abe's father was and the creator of the political party he's a member of, was personally in charge of enslaving 1 million Chinese people during World War II.
That was his grandpa. Excuse me.
Oh, his grandfather.
Yeah, it was his grandfather. So his grandfather was a Class A war criminal who had who was a colonial administrator in Manchuria. He is basically like Hans Frank, who was the Nazi civilian head of the Polish government after the invasion, right? That's the equivalent. And Frank got executed. His dad became one of the founders of the post-war Liberal Democratic Party, which was literally created by the United States government, by CIA, using the government's own stolen gold to and the Yakuza to just pay to create this political party that just became the only power. They were the governing power for the entire post-war period. And then the funny thing is, so his dad was a young guy. He was a late teens, early 20s during the war, and he actually signed up to be a kamikaze pilot. And he was doing the training for a kamikaze mission when the war ended, and that prevented him from doing it.
Okay, so
yeah, these guys are deep
valor.
in it. Yeah. This is a real committed family to the concept.
Imagine training to be a kamikaze pilot, and then the war ends. I still think you got to go through with it.
You got to do it.
Absolutely. Like, what's good? Okay, if the war ends and you fly into a U.S. battleship and like kill yourself, what's gonna happen? Oh, you're gonna get court-martialed? Who gives a shit? Did you want to do it or not?
Yeah, it's like, oh no, they'll get mad at me if I do this.
Yeah. Okay. So is that guy's gonna be like, no, I want to have a relationship with my son, Shinzo Abe. No one thinks you have that. No one believes that you like your.
What this proves is that his dad was a halfway crook. Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
He didn't really want to be a kamikaze pilot.
Scared to death or scared to look.
Yeah, if he wanted to, he would have said fuck it.
My grandfather's one of the naval ships he served on was sunk by a kamikaze pilot in the Pacific.
Oh man.
So
real shit.
That was real shit. Not Shinzo Abe's father though. He was a fucking shook. Pussy.
Yeah, pussy. That was a pussy, man.
But no, I just I want to bring up the connection to the Moonies is fascinating to me because like apparently this guy's mom gave away all her money, and Shinzo Abe personally and his party were very involved in the Moonies. But the thing is, there are so many American politicians that are in with the Moonies too. I mean, one of my favorite videos of all time is George H.W. Bush, Poppy himself, calling in to the anniversary of the Washington Times, and he gives like, and it's like a. And it is like, and then the Reverend Moon has a video message as well, and it's like it's a grand ballroom in D.C. filled with many of the luminaries of the Republican Party. And George H.W. Bush calls in. He's like, he's doing a little shtick about himself, and he's like, I like the Washington Times, no bias, wouldn't be prudent.
Normally, when I think of the Washington Beltway press corps, I think of, well, not going to say it, wouldn't be prudent. But when I think of the Washington Times, I think of a publication that has brought much needed balance to the way Washington is covered these days.
Doing things like that. And then the Reverend Moon addresses the ballroom, and he starts talking about how free sex must be banned.
Absolute sex is centered on God, and free sex is centered on Satan. Historically, world literature and media have often stimulated free sex. But from now on, you literary figures and journalists should lead the way to prevent free sex. Free sex should completely disappear.
And once we can control free sex, he goes, none can oppose me.
Therefore, everyone is one world has opposed to Reverend Moon. Therefore, now nobody can oppose me.
And like it's just this ballroom of like DC conservatives looking nervous, sort of like nervously side-eyeing each other. And I looked this up. There's a New York Times article from 2004. A crowning at the Capitol creates a stir. As a shining symbol of democracy, the United States Capitol is not ordinarily a place where coronations occur. So news that the Reverend Sun Myung Moon, the eccentric and exceedingly wealthy Korean-born businessman, donned a crown in a Senate office building and declared himself the Messiah while members of Congress watched is causing a bit of a stir. One congressman, Representative Danny K. Davis, Democrat of Illinois, wore white gloves and
former
carried
Black Panther.
Really?
Danny Davis, not from my neighborhood like next to mine. Danny K. Davis, former Black Panther, who sold out like everything he used to believe in to be like, actually, I agree with everything that the Democratic Leadership Council says. I love Danny Davis. So a notable, horrible Illinois politician.
Wore white gloves and carried a pillow holding one of two ornate gold crowns that were placed on the heads of Mr. Moon and his wife, Dr. Hak Jahan Moon, at the ceremony, which took place March 23rd, and capped a reception billed as a Peace Awards banquet. Mr. Davis says he held the wife's crown and was a bit surprised by Mr. Moon's Messiah remarks, which were delivered in Korean, but accompanied by a written translation. In them, he said emperors, kings, and presidents had declared to all heaven and earth that Reverend Sun Myung Moon is none other than humanity's savior, Messiah, returning Lord, and true parent.
Okay, that's kind of a serve.
I mean, it's true. I mean, well, from America to Japan, the Moonies, they roll deep, but one true Ronin was able to stand up to them.
It's true, but it's like not the connection goes beyond just like him schmoozing with all these politicians. Like the Mooney network in Asia is like part of a general intelligence apparatus around containing communism there, it exhibits soft power in the form of its ownership of media. The Reverend Moon in the '80s, he spent like, I think they broke the record for budget on this movie about the Incheon invasion in the Korean War that had this all-star cast. I think Gregory Peck was in it, and it was this huge boondoggle and an infamously terrible film. But yeah, like that was all part of a propaganda campaign around supporting, the American and Japanese capital there in Asia. So it's you could really consider this blowback.
Absolutely. And like I've seen like a certain commentary on the kind of like the nationalist right, who of course love Abe and what he represents. But the thing is, like, like they're comparing him to Mishima, and they're saying like that this was a glorious death and martyrdom.
Yeah,
which is sort of confounded by the fact that he didn't want to die or know he was going to die.
Yeah, that's kind of ruins it. You have to be you have to be doing it on purpose.
Like Mishima did it on purpose. Like, like he gutted himself in that building and then had his head cut off.
Yeah. And it's like he didn't really think that he was going to successfully overthrow the fucking government. He knew it was going to fuck up. He was prepared. It was all a ritual to get to that point of he was not like, hey, I'm going to give this speech in front of these yokels, and then I'm going to, have dinner, and then get my crank pulled and go to bed. No, and then boom, blown up. That's not the spirit of sacrifice that you're supposed to be in.
Well, and then commit, seppuku, which has got to be like, that's the most committed way to kill yourself. I mean, you got because like in the traditional way of doing it, you have a second to deliver the killing stroke, but you can only be granted the sweet release of having your head sliced off if you've fully turned the blade across your stomach and completely gutted yourself.
I've read some of the stuff that people have committed seppuku over, and I kind of think they like overdid it.
Commitment to the bit.
Like there was a guy who was like the shogun's uncle or some shit, and he committed seppuku because the shogun had like bad manners. He committed seppuku so the shogun would like take his job more seriously, and in that case, it's like, okay, you just wanted to kill yourself.
Committing seppuku because you don't like the floral arrangements at the latest, state banquet.
That was it. It's like, yeah, you're just suicidal. You're just like picking something at random.
But yeah, like, I mean, to kill yourself in that way is God. I mean, that is really showing commitment. I mean, gotta hand it to the Japanese. They really do elevate cruelty and violence to quite a high degree of art and aesthetic principle.
Well, like, I mean, if you make that one of the only acceptable forms of suicide, then it worked. Look how low their suicide rates are compared to ours.
So it's one of those things, like recording last week, sometimes world events, screw with the show schedule, but, R.I.P. Bozo, R.I.P. Shinzo Abe.
R.I.P. Shinzo. He wanted to be just like us.
We will miss him, and it's going to be very difficult to continue doing the show and our fall tour, but without his guidance. But I think he will be watching over all of us and continuing to provide, like I said, spiritual, honorable leadership from beyond. But his example will guide us in the future.